It's Sunday and there's a new boss in the Nightmare Corridor. So let's head over there and check out my teams, and then we'll also check out the Cursed Realm teams. So I'm just going to start out in the Nightmare Corridor because that's the new thing, and that's what I believe most people are struggling in. So I'll just share my teams in there. Now, as you can see down here, I have tested out a lot of things. So there's a lot of sub-comps that I'll be able to tell you guys about as well. But let us just take a look at my teams to start out with. So for the first team here, this is a Scarlet team. Now this is a high RNG team, and what I mean by high RNG is that this team can hit 19 seconds, but I will say like 9 out of 10 times it hits around 20 seconds for me. Obviously, I'm using the Panda at level 18. If you don't have the Panda at level 18, you can try it at level 15. Or if you don't have the Panda at 15, you can try it Blade Ridge otherwise. Improvements for this team, if you can free up Damia, she can slot in over Atheist, and that'll bring the town down by a lot. But this is the best, or what worked out best for me. Next team. So this is the same team as last week. There's no changes in here. Again, you need Trecia's E30 for this team to work at all. No changes in here. Well, I guess for me, my pet level went up. But other than that, this is the exact comp that you want to use in that team. Now, here's where you can make a few different things. Now, as you can see in here, I'm using Liberta because I didn't find a spot for Liberta in my remaining comps. One thing you can do if you don't have Liberta available is that you can slot in Anasta over Liberta in here. And another thing, because this is the debuff round, you want to run 3 Wilders. Now for me, I'm running Soros, I'm running Yorin, and I'm running Mishka. Now for most people, and for me included, Lorsen is better than Mishka in this round. But for my Athalia team, for my specific Athalia team, Lorsen is better in there, and that is why I'm not running Lorsen in here. But for most people, you would want to run Lorsen over Mishka. All right. Now, excuse me, this might make a sound. There we go. For the next team, this is the Baden team. Now, for this Baden team, there's a few things that you can do. Not with the heroes so much. I mean, you can swap around the positioning a bit of the heroes, but the main thing that you can do is you can play around with the beasts. Now, I got the new beast to level 18, and it was a pretty big improvement over the owl in this team. But one thing that you should know is that the owl works just as well in here. So if you don't have this beast at level 18, don't sweat it, just use the owl in here instead. But for me, it was definitely like a few seconds of improvements using this beast in this round over the owl for me. I'll run through the collections afterwards, but yeah. All right, so here's the Athalia team. Now, for the Athalia team, it's highly individual. Some things that you can do is, like for me, I'm running Lorsen in here, right? For a lot of people, you will need Lorsen in here. And thus you want to run something else than Lorsen. So what you can do is you can run an Authors variant with Authors instead of Lorsen. Another thing you can run is you can run, if you can slot out Lorsen, and you can slot out Naruko, and you can run what is he called, Daemon and Mortis over those two. Another thing you can do if you don't have Daemon for whatever reason, but you have Awakened Chimera, then you can throw Mortis and Awakened Chimera in here. Another thing that you can do if you want to run the Authors variant is that you can use the Cookie Pet with Authors, and that works for some bigger accounts. For me, it doesn't work at all. But this is the team that I ended up using. Again, if you can free up Atheist from round 1, he can also work in this team along with Skrek as some different formations. But the main thing is you need Athalia's SI40 for this to really work. And then lastly, this is the new round. Now, for this new round, we're pseudo slotting in the SEAL team. So I'm very excited for next week once the debuff is gone from this round to see what we end up cooking up. But here we can basically slot in the SEAL team into this team. Now for most people in here, they're using the Dragon Pet, and the Dragon Pet is better. It does bring this team down to like a 20-second kill. However, for me, the Dragon Pet gave me more seconds in here than it did in here, so thus I switched it, right? So I'm using the owl in here and the dragon in here, and that gave me an overall better time, but we're talking 2 seconds difference. For most people, using the dragon pet in here and then using the owl in the Baden team is better. As for the heroes in here, there's a bit of flexibility. The main thing I've seen is that people, well, I mean, it really depends, because one thing that you can do in this round of the if we just look at the leaderboard real quick, is that some people are running Thane in here, right? So if you have Thane, you can definitely use a Thane. But as you can see, I mean, this is not a cheap formation at all, right? And there isn't really a consensus of what the best teams are, because some people are running Thane in here, some people are running Thane in here, right? So the top whales don't know what to do. But I mostly don't really look at the top whales because I can't make their teams. But for me, this is personally what I believe to work the best for my account. Let's run through the collection because I forgot to show them. In here, there isn't really anything that notable. The one thing I will say is that my Scarlet collection, if I'm able to view her, look at this one. This one is a pretty good collection. So my time might be better than yours just because of that collection. It's really good. Usually I use that for Belinda. Anyways, here we're using these collections, nothing really of note. Here we're using these collections. Yeah, again, I mean, they're pretty standard and nothing of note here. Yeah, another round of standard collections. One thing I will notice that obviously my Baden is really big in here because it's a merked whale Baden, right? And thus it has a pretty good collection along with, good stats and such. So there's that. And then in here, pretty standard collections, nothing of note in here. And then lastly in here, we're using, again, pretty average collections. So those were my Nightmare Corridor teams. I don't expect to stay in the top 200, although it would be nice because they just updated the rewards in here. But I do expect to drop a bit out. Next up, the Cursed Realm. All right, so for the Cursed Realm, this round, excuse me, this round, I'm not that big of a fan. And it's basically the same old thing with the Cursed Realm. It's because it's highly RNG dependent. Because, for example, this team I've seen do 13 billion, but in my best hit, it did 9. So that's nice. So let's take a look at the heroes that I'm using in here. So things of note in here is that for some people who have the new Hypergene hero, you can use him in here. And another thing that you can use in here, along with the new Hypergene hero, is Nyla, the new dragon hero, instead of both Kryn and Queen. But for me, this worked out best. Another thing of note is I'm using the dragon pet in here. And a better pet, but a less consistent pet, is using the owl in here. Using the owl in here allows me to hit like 13, 14 billion damage, but it's highly RNG dependent. And using this beast, it hits like 9 to 12 billion damage, but it's and it's a lower RNG. Like RNG has a lower importance or impact when using this pet. But yeah, using the owl is definitely good in here. Next up, this is the Seal team. I've seen people use Eugene in the Seal team. I didn't really find any use for him personally. Obviously, if you have Brutus, if you have Matria, slot them in over these two heroes, and you'll do fine. But for me, 10 billion damage from the Seal team is completely fine. Next up, here you have to do a few things to make this team work. Now, the main thing you have to do is remove the first 3 pieces of Author's gear, and then remove the collection of Rem, so she doesn't have the highest combat rating, and that should allow Liberta to link Orthos and Liberta. And basically what you're looking for, if we just play it real quick, is you want to fiddle around with it until you get to the point where Liberta and Orthos are the ones that move during his ult. So as you can see, once Orthos ults here, Liberta is the one to move. And once Liberta links, she links Orthos because he has the lowest HP, allowing him to ult again and for her to move again in like an infinite cycle, basically. So yeah, you have to play around a bit with this, but for me, yeah, this works out fine. Another thing, if you have Helios, he's just as good as Sonya in here. For me, he was a little better, but again, I didn't hit the RNG. Again, this is a highly RNG. It can hit 19, for me, it can hit up to 19 billion damage, and it can hit as low as 12 billion damage. So yeah, a huge RNG on this team. Next up, this is a non-RNG team, and it's also a pretty bad team. Now, for most people, we will be using the owl in here, but the pet in here, it can be super interchangeable. You can use the ice pet, you can use the deer, you can use, I mean, pretty much any pet in here works because this team is so bad. So it doesn't really matter. Just make sure that your other pets are good for the other rounds, and then throw whatever you have in here. I'm using a pseudo Scarlet team. I'll show you guys what you can do if you have well, basically if you have Gavius, because then you can free up Awakened Chimera. So let's head into the next round, and this is the Belinda round, right? This is like This is super RNG. This is the mega RNG. Basically, like, you need to play the lottery to win this Belinda round. For me personally, at least, this team flip-flops around all over the place, but it can hit pretty high. Here, it had a decent hit of 19 billion damage. I've seen it hit higher, and I've seen it hit much, much lower and much more often. One thing you can do in here is if you have Gavious built, you don't need Chimera in this round, and then you can slot in Chimera into this round. And using Chimera in this round is a lot better because Chimera is actually like a damage dealer that does something, unlike these frauds. So yeah, if you have Gavious, you can use Chimera in here and improve both teams. But I don't have Gavious, so thus I can't do that. So I'm using the Chimera variant. Lastly, for this team, I would try out Brawn. For me, he's legendary. For most people, he isn't built at all. But even an elite copy of Brawn might be better than the alternative. And then you might be asking, hey, what's the alternative? And that's a great question. But obviously for the leaderboard, it's different. But for me, the alternative was, if we can find it, let's have a decent hit here. The alternative is using Trashia and this comp. And for some people, this works great. For me, not so much, right? As you can see, it hit around 9. And with Brawn, I was able to get around a consistent 11 billion damage. But this is it for me, actually. Let's just run through the collections real quick so you can have a look at it. But again, other than this team, I mean, the collections obviously matter. But for me, there shouldn't be much of note because my collections aren't that good. All right. But that's it for me. A short video this time around, but yeah, I'm getting pretty busy as we're heading into the exams, so that's what you get from me this time. All right, see you.